Hello. So in this video, we are going to continue with the Space Invaders tutorial, and we're going to add in the winning and losing conditions. So we kind of have a game over condition already, but now with the new piece that we've added in, we'd have the winning condition where you actually have destroyed all the aliens, and then another losing condition is whether the bombs have hit the player enough times that the HP is too low. So there's a few different ways we could structure this, but I am going to make some variables to control whether the entire game is over or not, and then also keeping track of what the condition is. Like, is it that you won, that you lost? That's kind of the way that I'm going to structure this code, so that the main loop should continue. Everything should keep moving and things should keep colliding as long as the game is not over. But then once the game's over, then it moves into a different mode. So what I'm going to do is to make a variable toward the top here, let game over equal false. Right? From the very beginning, the game is not over, so I'll set that to false here. And I'll say let result. And then I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to define what the result is quite yet. I could kind of combine these ideas. So then in the function draw, I'm going to take all the stuff that I want to happen during the game. I'm actually going to wrap it inside of an if statement here. Right, so I'm going to take, probably leave the background exactly where it is, but right before this for loop here, I'm going to say if game over. I could say something like if game over equals false, but another way I could do that is to say if not game over. And so do a exclamation point here, which means not. So if it is not game over, open curly brace. Notice how I deleted that closing one right there. I'm only opening it at this point. And then I'm going to put the ending curly brace all the way down at the bottom of function draw here, still before this curly brace. So notice how I have two closing curly braces right here. So that all of that stuff that has been the main game loop so far, I just put that inside an if statement there. So I can click play, just things are still moving, so not a problem there. And I could shift all of the indentation here, but I'm zoomed in pretty far, so I'm not going to mess with that. And so again, just note that I have that if statement that's very big. Right? It closes just before the end of the function, and it opens up at the top here. That way, now when I control that variable, the game over, that's what then can make it do something different. So I can write an else statement. And so if it's not game over, then do all the colliding and moving and everything. Else, it is game over. Then that's where I'm going to draw text to say, well, I'll say the variable result. So if it says you win or you lose, whatever that happens to be, that's what I'm going to show there. And more or less, I'm going to show that in the middle of the screen. So it'd be width divided by 2, and then height divided by 2. There's some tinkering I could do with that as far as how the text is positioned, but that's pretty close. And then do a no. And then just to make the loop stop at that point. Right, so once the game is over, it's going to display that result, and it's going to stop the loop right there. Now, this part is never going to happen right now because I don't have anything that can change game over to be true. So I want to think about what are those moments, what are those conditions? When could the game be over? Well, the one we've already defined is when the aliens hit the bottom of the screen. So let me just go to that point and swap that out for our new system here. So instead of saying console.log game over, no loop, what I want to do is to change that variable game over to true, and then set result to you lose. Okay, because that result variable holds that message, which then this else statement is using that result variable to show the message there. So with that change, I should at least be able to see that working. Because again, this is in the alien versus walls function. So else if alien.y is bigger than the height, they're too far down, that's when this should happen. If I let the game run and have the aliens go all the way down, I should get this to occur. And I should actually see everything else disappear because I'm still drawing the background. Yeah. All right, so it's really small text, we could format that, but it worked, right? The whole game disappears and it just stops the game and says you lose as the right result. So that was one of the conditions for game over. The other condition for game over would be when we've destroyed all the aliens. And so that would be in the spawn aliens, not spawn aliens, in the laser versus aliens function. Right, where when they collide, then the alien is set to inactive. So I could do that here. The question is, I've won the game when I've eliminated all of the aliens. So this function right here really only understands that one of the aliens has been taken out. So there's a few things I could do, but I think it's going to end up being a little bit buggy. So my idea was I can get the length of the aliens array. So if it's 0, then that's going to be when it's over. Or maybe it's 1 because this one is still in there, obviously, because it's happening. It's part of the for loop. But I think that could be a little buggy, and there could be some strange situations. So I think I want to just kind of attach into the main loop here. But this will almost be a question I always ask before I ask the question, is the game over? I will just check to see if aliens.length, and notice I'm at pretty close to the top of function draw here. If aliens.length is greater than 0, actually I'll say that if it's less than or equal to 0, which it should never be less than, but tell you what, let's just do that. All right, so if aliens.length is exactly equal to 0, equal, then what should happen? Then game over should be set to true. And I put it in this position because of how I'm actually handling getting rid of the aliens here. I'm using these for loops, and I don't actually delete the aliens until this point when the filtering happens. So it has to kind of wait until the end of this loop, the end of this frame refresh for that to happen. But at some point, there aren't going to be any aliens left. So then when it goes to filter, it's not going to have anything to filter in. So then this length will be 0. All right, and I could do curly braces, start here and stop here. But so setting, which I do need to do because I need to start the curly brace here and I need to end it here for this if statement of there are no more aliens left. Because game over needs to be true, and then result needs to be set to you win. All right, so this question is always going to be asked: are there aliens left? And if it's the case that there are not any aliens left, length is 0, then game over is true, and then the message is you win. So then that third condition is the player got hit by too many bombs. And that could happen in the moment where the bomb hits the player. So if we see the function bomb versus player here, if rect versus rect, So I know that right here, the player did get hit. So this is potentially the moment where he got hit too many times. Now I could put this up in the main function, but so I do player.hp minus minus. Right in this very moment is where I could say if player.hp is less than or equal to 0, then aim over equals true and result equals you lose. So notice all of the closing curly braces here. This one is for that if statement that I just made when the player has run out of health. And I did this after HP minus minus, so I'm going to let that math happen. And then I'm just considering it that when, I don't think this less than is ever going to be the case, but if it gets to 0, there is no health left. I'm not going to give it that extra chance. So that's for this if statement here. This one is for the did they actually collide or not, is the rect versus rect returning a true. And then this one's for the function. All right. So by just changing those variables, that other part of my code that pays attention to those variables will control whether the game stops and it says you lose or not. It would not be very hard to get hit by too many bombs, I would imagine. Test if I can lose. Yeah. All right, so I got hit by too many bombs. Probably will be very tricky to destroy all of the aliens. I'm thinking by the bombs first. I think I do need to still adjust the frequency that they shoot. Ooh, got pretty close there. But I ended up losing because it hit the bottom. So we got the winning and the losing conditions all in place there.